¿Se me oye? Vale, ya tenemos todo preparado. Disculpad que hayamos tardado tanto, es que hay muchísimas cosillas por aquí que configurar. Primero de todo, daros las gracias, porque sé que estar aquí un viernes a las 4 cuesta de por sí. Entonces, de verdad que gracias por asistir al propio taller. Yo me presento, soy Daniel García Bameiro. Actualmente estoy trabajando en S2 Grupo y estoy estudiando Ingeniería Informática, ya en mi último año, que espero terminar ya de una vez por todas. La charla ahora mismo es Hardware y Software para RedTeam y BlueTeam. Está un poco, digamos, sobre todo para la parte de redes, que es a lo que yo me voy dedicando, pero voy a ir mostrando también herramientas y cosillas para ir detectando todos los posibles ataques que puedan ejercer sobre nuestra infraestructura. Para que veáis un poco, esto no deja de ser el trabajo de fin de grado que fui desarrollando como mi último año de carrera, y me animé a echar el CFP, la propuesta, a las 23:54, un minuto antes. O sea, yo estaba ahí diciendo, vale, por un lado me hace ilusión porque me gustaría que la gente viese lo que es toda la parte de investigación del TFG, pero por otro, no sé si estaría ahí a la altura. Entonces llegó la última hora y dije, venga, voy a darle caña, voy a lanzarla, y presenté mi paper. Y al final resulta que a INCIBE le gustó y es por eso que estoy por aquí. Yo ahora mismo me pregunto, todos los que estáis aquí habéis cacharrado con Wi-Fi, ¿no? ¿Sí? ¿Más o menos? Vale. ¿Alguno trabaja en RedTeam? Veo, hay gente por ahí. ¿Y en Blue? ¿Alguien es de BlueTeam? Vale, alguien ahí por allí. ¿Y el resto, algunos sois estudiantes? Vale, o sea, la charla de por sí está un poco adaptada a lo que sería tanto para estudiantes como para RedTeam como para BlueTeam. A RedTeam le van a sobrar muchas de las cosillas que hay. De hecho, si vieseis el escenario diríais, eso me suena, eso también, eso también. Pero espero que descubráis algunas cosillas que son un poco nuevas, que se usan actualmente y que están bastante chulas. Esto sería un poco el índice de lo que vamos a ir a ver. Lo que viene con asterisco es como un plus. O sea, yo tenía programado para 70 minutos de parte técnica, pero hay cosas que sí que me gustaría señalizar y que se pudiesen dar, que lo he puesto a modo de plus. El índice tal cual sería panorama actual, que es un poco lo que hay ahora para ver cómo nos estamos moviendo, desplegando nuestro escenario, que sería ver todo esto que hay aquí y daros un poco de código para que podáis ir trasteando con ello, parte de acceso a redes Wi-Fi, que he dividido en dos partes. La primera parte es la típica que todo el mundo casi conocemos, que es lo de web, WPA, WPS, etcétera. Y la segunda parte es un poco intento de tirando hacia ingeniería social. No me gusta usar esa palabra, pero viendo al final post y otras charlas, yo creo que lo que más se usa es decir ingeniería social. Luego veríamos un poco el tema del Captive Portal, de poder un poco jugar con el usuario. Seguimiento y triangulación, que está muy chulo. Parte de acceso físico, que para mí es la más chula de todas. O sea, es la que más me gusta, porque al final son mini cacharritos que tengo por aquí y yo me siento como un crío jugueteando con ellos. De hecho, esta mañana, dos de ellos, yo me he levantado. O sea, yo me he despertado, he ido a tomarme el café tranquilamente diciendo, bueno, voy a ir pausado, tengo tiempo, voy a controlar un poco la situación. He probado uno y no me ha funcionado. Y he dicho, no puede ser, no puede ser. Al final lo conseguí arreglar, vi por qué era y probé el otro. Tampoco me funcionaba. Diciendo, no puede ser. O sea, esto no puede ser. Entonces, al final ya conseguí que los dos funcionasen, así que los cacharrillos que tengo por aquí todos funcionan. Así que yo eso que me alegro de poder mostraroslo. Vale, panorama actual. Ahí veréis en toda la diapositiva
Scenario. Well, here you can see, by the way, my hashtag and Twitter account. If you have any question you want, my final project essay, or if you anything like that, please feel free to contact me. Normally, when we're talking about Wi-Fi, what do you think? Because when you talk to people about Wi-Fi, they say, okay, this is what I have at my place. But if you talk to experts in cybersecurity, they think about the neighbors. This is the current scenario that we can experience day to day. Also, nobody usually thinks about the blue part of Wi-Fi. If we hear the word Wi-Fi, we always think about attacks and about tools in order to access the router or the network. So In order to give you a fast explanation, I mean, for most of us have friends who are not working in cybersecurity, and they think of us as if we were hackers. I'm new here. I'm a newbie. I've just started working in this sector, in this professional sector. I'm starting to learn, but I'm a newbie. But for my friends, I mean, they think that I know stuff, and I'm Danny the hacker, you know? It's like my surname. I'm called like that, Danny the hacker, and probably it's the same for you. Your name and then the hacker. So, in order for you to know my friends or my contacts, sometimes one day I went on a trip with my friends and we didn't have Wi-Fi, so everybody started looking at me, and I felt the pressure there. I mean, they were asking me without asking to get Wi-Fi, and I said, no, I can't do that. That's not legal. I cannot hack the neighbor's Wi-Fi for you to have it. And someone said, well, that means that you cannot do it. Well, in the end, we got Wi-Fi. I got Wi-Fi, and then my friends say, hey, great, I love you. So the end of the story is that I was not stealing the Wi-Fi from the neighbor. I just created a point of access. So what I mean with this story is that besides our cybersecurity colleagues that know about this stuff, for the rest of people, these are some things that they do not understand. They just think that Wi-Fi is something that you have at your place to connect to the internet, or something that a neighbor has so that you can connect to the internet. So regarding red teams and blue teams, well, in order to detect intrusions in a Wi-Fi network, we use DBS, and red teams also have different programs that they can use, such as the pineapple Wi-Fi. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's quite cool, and you can get the latest version with the GLID. So if we are blue team and we want to play a little bit with Wi-Fi, what are we going to find? All the WIDS that I've found are, most of them, you need to pay for them. They're open source alternatives, but so far what I've seen is it's not very well developed. Joe Hassan had one. The CCN had one that they had to pay for. And then also people can create a small WIDS in order to detect if someone else has created a point of access, or if they want to detect an authentication of a network. Then in my final project, I learned the different structures that were more frequently used. And for sure, you need a central panel in which you're going to visualize everything. Also, this central panel is going to receive information from everything around. And this is going to help you buy some type of probes. These probes may be different type of probes and are going to send information to the central panel. Also, in the middle of probes, you can try to get waves of the probes and alerts that are going to send to the central panel. And maybe sometimes the central panel is in charge of the logic of the application and can generate that type of alerts. And then regarding red teams, whenever I ask someone, what do you think if I tell you Wi-Fi, they are going to say the word pineapple. So here are the pineapples that I've used the most. The Tetra Wi-Fi pineapple, the Nano Wi-Fi pineapple, and a Chinese copy which is sold in AliExpress. And then we have the last type of device in which you can load the pineapple, the Wi-Fi pineapple. I tried to contact High Five, the ones that created that device, and I was going to bring a pineapple, but Warren had an accident, and well, I just want to send greetings to him, and I hope everything turns out fine.
Un segundo. Voy a ponerme con el otro ordenador y os enseño lo que sería la propia página.
Well, I'm going to check the next computer in order to show you where to buy each device.
Ahí está. Vale. Ahí. Y se está cargando. Ay, un poco ya. Vale. Ahí está. Directamente lo que sería Half-Five.
So, well, this is Half-Five.
Bueno, no pasa nada. En la propia página vais a encontrar lo que sería.
So, well, if you search in Google Half-Five and pineapple, you're going to be addressed to the website in which you can buy it. The Chinese version can be found in AliExpress. If you look in the search engine of AliExpress the word pineapple, the third option is going to be the one that I've shown you in the previous slide.
Hecho. ¿Se ve por ahí? Sí. Vale.
Okay, great. This is for you to see these devices. Well, also now it's Black Friday, so you're going to get some discounts. If we go to the product area, you can see here the Tetra pineapple. It is also sold in Apple. And this is the Nano pineapple. So the Nano is very cool in order to play with it, but you can just have two antennas. What does it mean? That there are many attacks that may be done through Wi-Fi that cannot be done through the Nano pineapple. With the Tetra pineapple, you are going to have more chances to do more attacks. So what the Nano does is that it uses one of the antennas to create a point of access, and through that point of access you're going to have a panel through which you're going to be able to launch your attacks. And from the other antenna, you're going to be able to carry out the attacks. I assure you that nor Amazon or AliExpress are paying me for doing this. But well, this is the Chinese copy of the pineapple. Well, in this case, you have several options. Okay, this is the one, AR150. So, well, this is the device that you can use if you want to set up your own pineapple. I bought this one here. So you can buy it with internal antenna, and afterwards you're going to need the alpha antenna, because the hardware of the pineapple has a chip. Okay, this is for you to see the specifications of the product. Well, so it uses an ARN991 chip, I think, and that's the chip of alphas. As for alphas, if you want to have your own suites with all of the gadgets, I would recommend you to buy a suitcase such as this one in order to have everything more organized. So this is the alpha that I bought, the black one. This is sold in Amazon, but I think it was 23 euros in Amazon, and it is not the real one or the best one. So I think the chip ends by L, which helps you save more battery, but is less powerful. However, I bought it in order to try out, and it's working for me. I tried to take the software of the pineapple. I loaded it in my Gleanet, and I could work with that. If you want to assemble your own suite, the memory of the Galinet is 16, by the way, and the new versions for the Pineapple regarding software exceed the capacity of the IR 150 model. But what you can do is removing some packages and try to get less than 16. You load it in the Galinet and you build your own Pineapple in this device.
Vale, no sé si se ve. Ahí está. Voy a ir a mi ordenador. Me voy a coger el Mac de aquí para que veáis un poco la conexión con la propia piña.
Well, I'm going to show you the version with the Pineapple. Well, I can see that somebody is creating points of access. You cannot see it on the big screen, but I can see it from here. Okay, can I go back to the Mac? Okay.
Vale, aparece. Sí, voy a cerrarlo. Ahí, cerrado. Sí. Vale. Ya estoy conectado con la piña.
So I'm already connected through the Pineapple.
No, pero lo paso para allá.
¿Puedes trabajar,
Sí.
¿Vas a tener la visualización de ponente también?
¿Por los dos?
Sí. Por favor, dame un segundo, por favor.
Aquí. ¿No? Un segundo. Vale. Vale, pues ¿se ve? Sí. Lo que serían las propias redes, yo ya estoy conectado.
Okay, so I'm already connected to the point of access created by the Pineapple. In this case, the IP of the router is 172, 16.42, 32.1, and the port is 1471. And this is the panel of the Pineapple with the latest software version. I didn't find any post in Google about it, but you can try it out. If you want my notes about failures that I found, etc., please ask me and I will send the information that I have. On the internet, you can find information about 2.2 or 2.3, but this is 2.6. There are a lot of changes, such as, for example, the PHP version, and it is also faster. So that's it worth it? I mean, what's the difference between Nano and Tetra? Or is it worth it to buy the Nano or the Tetra or creating your own Pineapple? Because everything is done in the Pineapple. As for the Galinet, it took me a whole weekend to assemble it. I remember that I was struggling with it for a whole weekend. I had many failures when compiling, etc. So it took me 1 weekend in order to load the Pineapple on the Galinet. And what operating systems may we find when doing audits or working with Wi-Fi? Well, first time I started working with Wi-Fi, I used Wi-Fi Slack. So I was a kid and I looked on the internet how to hack a Wi-Fi, and they recommended Wi-Fi Slack. It's quite updated, and I was testing. I was playing with it a few days ago, and it works. Then Kali is the one that we all know, and Parrot Secure. I love Parrot, and this is the one I would recommend. There are switches that do not come by default, but you can download them from the repositories. Right now in this computer, I've brought Kali because I prefer to be safe in this presentation. And what I like the most about Kali, I'm going to use the other computer in order to show you.
Dale un segundo. Ponme si puedes el otro ordenador.
Can I connect to the other computer? I don't know if you've seen this option from Kali, but I love it. So Kali Undercover converts a Linux computer into Windows. I mean, you see a Windows screen, and you can start working with that. Well, I'm going to go back to the previous Kali interface, but well, going back to the Mac and talking about deploying our scenario, what are we going to need in order to start playing with Wi-Fi? So what did I, when I was doing my final project, what did I need? First of all, antennas. You have different type of antennas, different brands, different sizes. The most comfortable or the most convenient one is this one here, which is quite small. I don't know if you can see it properly. Okay, can you see it properly now? Okay, this is like the most popular one, €1 in AliExpress, and it works for Wi-Fi connections. It is true that it's not very powerful. I am only using it in order to connect to the internet. Then the next size is a little bit bigger, and the price is the same, and this is the one here. It's also €1. It's more powerful. The thing is that people find more convenient to have this. I don't care about the size. I don't care about people watching the antenna, so I've started buying these ones. It's true that when you buy an antenna in MediaMarkt or somewhere else, normally they offer you this type of big devices with an antenna. It is a little bit bigger, but I think that with this one here that's a little bit smaller, I have more power. This is the first one that I bought in MediaMarkt. And I will always remember this moment because I was a child. When I started playing with Wi-Fi, I was just a child. I went to MediaMarkt to buy this antenna. And it should be useful in order to use the monitor mode. Or at least this is what I wanted the antenna for. I asked in the store, do you know if this antenna can be used to work in monitor mode? And I was scared because I thought that they were going to think that I was going to use it to spy on the neighbor. And he asked me, "Is this for you to audit, right?" And I said, yes, of course, I'm going to use it to audit. And also, the alphas are very affordable. I was given one. I tried it out. It worked better than these small devices, and now I have two of them. This is the alpha model with the antenna. I bought the chip AR271. And for me, this is the one that has worked the best for me. And you can buy it in Amazon for €20. It is AR9271. And when doing audits, I can tell the difference between these different devices. And then you can have a bigger antenna. And this one, I bought it because one of my colleagues had it. I mean, I was quite happy with my alpha antenna, but my colleague told me, wow, this is too small, and he pull out this big antenna from his backpack. So I was very happy with my previous antenna, and he showed me his, and I ended up buying it. And it's true that this is way more powerful. You can reach way more networks with this big antenna. I think it was 12 euros, and the alpha antenna is 20 euros. So for 30 euros, you can build this small device here. The antenna is big, I know. If you need to do audits and you need to move around a building, I think it's maybe too big. But if you're going to be sitting somewhere, it's fine. So we've talked about the antennas, and now I want to talk to you about probes. So I always try to automatize everything. As my computer is not working very well, I try to load all the information on other devices, such as this mini computer. These are the mini computers that I've found and that are quite useful. Raspberry is the most popular one, I think. So this is the first Raspberry that was in the market. The problem is that it only has 2 USB entries. This is the Raspberry number 1, and the problem is that it only has 2 ports. So if you are going to use 2 antennas like these ones, you can connect the first one, and for the second one you have a very small space, and sometimes you cannot even connect it. You can connect the small device that I've shown you before, but it's not the most convenient thing, actually. The next versions, the next one that I bought was the second version, Raspberry 2. The Raspberry 2 has more USB ports, so now you can connect 2 of these devices in the USB ports, and with this you can create your own probe. And it looks quite cool, actually. So I usually use 2 antennas. With one of them, I use a point of entry, and with the other one, I start launching the attacks. And then we have another device, which is the Q box, which is very cool. This is a cube, literally, and we have the same problem as with Raspberry 1. The USB ports are very close, and either you use very simple antennas or you cannot connect more than one. Also, another problem is that in the Raspberry you can have different operating systems, but here I tried to load a Debian version, but it's not updated. This is about 120 euros, I think, but it is very powerful, and I think the manufacturers are an Israeli company. You have to order these devices, and they send these devices to Spain, and the other devices you can buy them on Amazon. So this is the key box that I was saying before, that it was quite cool. Well, I cannot show it to you, but if you look for Qbox I, that's the first result you're going to get on Google. So what I'm going to do later, now I'm going to talk about router later, I will tell you the code in order for you to see what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to move to the second part of the presentation, which is about Wi-Fi networks access. So The first thing is doing an evil twin, which is creating a point of access which is similar of point of access that already exists. In order to see the points of access I can connect to. Okay, I'm going to open a bigger terminal. So, well, this is the horse tool. I don't know if it rings a bell. I'm going to check the active networks here. Well, I'm going to connect this device here. And the tool that I can use, that I usually use in order to see what's happening, what's going on, is the horse tool. This tool is going to help you monitor all of the packages around you. So it's it's monitoring all the packages around us that are being sent. And what I really like is that you can filter packages. Okay, give me a second, please.
El teclado. Aquí sí pilla.
Okay, let's see if I can do it here.
Y lo que me interesa es el filtro, que es con la propia tecla F, que no me está apareciendo ahora.
Okay, I applied a filter and pushed key F. When you push F, you have a mini panel. Let's wait for a second to see if it appears. I don't know why I can't get it there. So usually there should be a mini panel where you can filter the kind of package. One of the most one is ALF. Here you have the access points. Okay, I'll try to pause it when it appears because I have seen it. Access point, no. There is response but not request. I'm sure you have worked on Skynet. So the idea would be identify access points that we want to replicate and to replicate it with our own device. In order to create an access point, the most comfortable way to do it
Luego voy a hacer la prueba y lo que vamos a hacer es intentar que otro...
I will try to make that another user connects to our access point and we'll see what we can do if we have enough time. Okay, I go back to Mac. Then after Evil Twin, we would try to connect to corporate networks, to enterprise networks. My colleague was great at it, and in the beginning I had the option to use free radios for the authentication part. In Cali you have some repositories which offer free radios within the same package. In order to do this attack, I'm going to go back to Cali. It would be the host APD. I don't know where I had it. So host APT WP. Okay, there was a letter missing there. Because I had it over here before testing it. Okay, here. So we have host APD WPE, and then the user and the password will appear if you don't use debug. This is the setting up, the configuration. because later we're going to set the host APD up. I'll tell you how. The most known enterprise network is the university one, which would be EduroAM. This access point is going to create the access point called EduroAM. I don't know if I have it here. So we will create the access point EduroAM, and anyone who has EduroAM in their mobile phone track record, then they will try to connect to this point, to this access point. What I'm going to do is to work on host in this computer, yes.
Edito el fichero de configuración.
I edit the configuration file. And as interface, I'm going to use WLAN 2. Okay, it's done.
Down. Levanto un segundo.
Otherwise, what I can do is to restart the network manager.
No me está dejando.
I don't know why it doesn't allow me to start the WLAN 2. It should work, but I don't know why it doesn't.
La levanto. Y no me está tirando. Bueno, si no, luego vuelvo a ello.
Otherwise, I'll go back to it later, and we can make some progress now.
Para intentar seguir con...
So I go back to Mac in order to continue the presentation. Can you go back to Mac on the screen?
Sí. Vale. Al final, crear un punto de acceso.
So in the end, the most useful thing to create an access point, apart from making the user to connect them to our network, is to trick them so that they give us as much information as possible. So the most common thing is to replicate known portals. If my company's name is McDonald's, so the login portal should be exactly the same as the McDonald's one. In the captive portal, here we have another option. We can recur to browser hooks. There is a quite interesting app, Device. I think it's a bit, it's not quite updated, and you can do it with webhook. The idea would be to have in the active portal a script which would upload a JavaScript file in order to lift the webhook, and on the other side it would contain several instructions, and depending on the instructions received, it would perform one activity, one task or another. Okay, so in the end, this is sending code to the user or trying to activate the webcam or the microphone or any other thing. So as for follow-up or triangulation, the most comfortable thing is to, when you go to a company, is to see the heat map in order to see from what part of the company you will have easier ways to make people connect to your network. Another option is to triangulate people. There are several ways to do so. In my final project, I used several raspberries. So I placed those raspberries at certain points, and I knew all the traffic around me and all the access points around me. So you can more or less see how they figure out how they are working.
So you need to know the power in a certain point when a packet is being sent. Another option is what was done in London. The header is quite controversial, and what they did was to create access points in bins. Bins were registering MAC addresses from those devices which were trying to connect to these access points. These bins were placed at strategic points and could track MAC addresses, and they could track their movements afterwards. Another thing was quite controversial. Hackers used Wi-Fi signals in order to monitor the victims. So a guy took a probe and placed it in front of the house of another person and can see if the power of the packages, to see if it is normal, standard, or if it changes as for intensity. Okay, physical access. As I told you before, this is my favorite part, and I was willing to get to this point. Later we will see the web and the probes and the code. I called this part physical access in order to refer to hardwares, to play with them. The most popular one, or at least the most bought one, is the author. The author. I'm gonna change from computer. Okay, thank you.
Se va a ir por ahí. Voy a meter un segundo en el Express.
I'm gonna enter AliExpress for a second in order for you to show the gadget.
Ay, no te pongas en ayuda. Madre mía, la cantidad de publicidad que muestras.
So much advertising on this website.
Este es el que más suele...
This is the one that people usually buy. So what does this gadget do? It costs 11 euros, but I think you can find it for 9. Okay, so this gadget allows you to authenticate any user from any network that you select. And what is it for? For coding attacks. On many occasions, you need to listen to users in that same network. The easiest way to do it is to have a computer and an antenna, or you can use some of these gadgets. The one that I borrowed okay. The one that I borrowed is a version that a guy called Pedro from the University Complutense of Madrid built. Is this thing. What the guy did was to build his own printed circuit. Can you see it? He bought in AliExpress the buttons, the screen, and the Wi-Fi model. The code is free, open source, so you can find it in GitHub, and is what you see here. And what does it allow us to do? On the one hand, we can see everything that is going around us. Now it only shows the packages which are being sent. It doesn't indicate the power, and it is on channel 11. Okay, I go backwards, and what I'm going to do is to scan networks around us, APs, and then it will scan all the networks. It was fast, as you saw. And then, once I've got the network, there are 13 networks, so I'm going to select one of them, this one, for example.
Muévelo para atrás. Os lo enseño por aquí. Se ve.
Okay. This one.
Y podemos directamente realizar ataques sobre la red.
And you could perform the attack on the network that you have selected. In this case, it is going to be to authenticate.
Voy al invertido la pantalla.
I know you're seeing the screen in reverse. I'm sorry.
Y en este caso le damos a Start.
And in this case, we press start. So the gadget is going to send the auth to all the clients or users which were connected to that network in order to make them disconnect. This is quite comfortable. In my university, we had a problem, which was that in order to connect to the network, the range of IPs was quite limited. So when a number of users, the maximum number of users had been reached, you were disconnected from the network. So the alternative was to disconnect and try to connect again in order to disconnect another user. But what does this gadget do? We could authenticate that user so that they could keep on studying. Another of the gadgets that I log is a Wi-Fi keylogger. A keylogger collects characters that we're typing on our keyboard. From all the options that I have seen, the coolest one is this one. Can you see it? Our Drave keylogger.
Me voy a ir a Cali para así tener.
I'm going to go to Cali, to the other computer, please.
La pantalla del otro. A ver. Esta de aquí. Vale, mirad. Este será el de Author.
Okay, this is the author. This is the version, the size that everyone buys, but the code is free, so you can build whatever you want, as my colleague did. There are some people who buy the author in a clock size, so every time they want to authenticate somebody, they scan the network, select the network, and disconnect all the other users in order to authenticate others.
En Amazon son 40 euros.
I think it costs 40 euros in Amazon. I do not quite remember, but in AliExpress is 23 euros. This is not a premium option, but you can also send it through premium option, and it works as follows. As you can see, it's super tiny. Let's see if you can see it. It's tiny, tiny. There are even smaller versions and other bigger versions. You cannot connect that to a laptop because it catches your attention, but if you do it on a desktop computer, it doesn't attract your attention. When the gadget is connected to the network, it opens an access point, and then you can see the logs of what it's writing. There are several versions of this gadget. This is, let's say, the most standard one because the gadget creates an access point, and when you connect to it, you can see the registry. And there is another version, I think it is the Pro version, that makes you connect to the network and you don't need to access it. You receive all the information in your email account. Okay, so in this case, this is my gadget. I connect the keyboard. I'm gonna try with Bluetooth. Let's see. Let's try with the Bluetooth one. I'm going to go to Cali. Here it is. Okay. Let's see if I have an USB entry and connect it. So the access point which is going to be created, just give me a sec. I'm gonna have the Mac on the one side. This is already connected. I go to the Mac and I'm going to connect my Mac to the access point created by the gadget. It is connected. This opens a portal which shows the logs performed. As the user types, let's try with the Bluetooth keyboard. I'm gonna refresh it, and it should appear NNNN. This is what didn't work this morning because I managed to figure out that it was collecting information written in English. So if you type in a Spanish keyboard, maybe it doesn't collect all the information. This morning I tried with a manual keyboard instead of a Bluetooth one, and it could register everything that was being typed. Then you can also set the gadget up in order to change the name of the access point or even to enter a password. If you're doing it in a company, you can name it as the name of the company or as the name of the network used by the company. As you can see, this is quite easy. The other version sends you this information to your email account.
Vale. A ver, buenas diapositivas. Hecho. Vale. Luego, después de lo que sería.
Okay, and then after this keylogger, this Wi-Fi keylogger, there is another thing which is quite cool. This is a version of Rubber Ducky, but it doesn't have the same design. This one here. This catches more your attention because it is bigger. You can see the difference, right? What is this one going to do? The good thing is that it creates an access point. You connect the gadget to the laptop's users, you connect to the panel via web, and you type what that computer should type. It is a version of Rubber Ducky with an external access point, so you don't need to save the instructions. Here you can send the instructions through typing. I'm gonna show you. It takes a little bit to create the access point. Okay.
Y lo tengo yo por aquí.
Yes, and here it is. In this case, the password, it is a default password, but since I'm going to connect to my own computer, I'm not going to share my password in order to prevent somebody from sending data to my computer, okay? This is my IP, this is the password, and this is the IP to send information. As I was saying, there are cooler panels in your mobile phone. If you connect to the access point, there is an app. I mean, this is all free. This is this app. You can select the computer. I am using Linux. Can you see it? I don't know if you can. If I can adjust the zoom. Okay, so from here you ATF2, ATLF2, and then once you have your terminal in the other user's laptop, from this application you can type whatever you want and send it to the laptop. In this case, I'm going to use the desktop that it has. It is not as cool as the application itself. Can you see it, right? Okay. In this case, I'm going a sec to Cali, to the other computer. Okay. So clear, done. And I always route it as who am I? I already have the terminal. The distribution of the keyboard in Spanish is not well recognized, but it is in English. But if I go back to my Mac, can you show Mac? Yeah, thank you. So who am I? And I send the text. So from Cali, from the other computer, it wrote who am I? So I go back to the Mac, and you can do whatever you want. It has options for the mouse. You can press enter, so the command should be executed. You have special keys or shortcuts in order to reach the terminal or for other options. The easiest way to do it is, well, here there is none, is payloads. You can have a mini script in order for it to be connected to the laptop. I want to execute this script and the computer will execute it. In this case, the best is Alt F2 with Linux terminal, and then you type whatever you want. The script literally is print 2 points or print time 2 points. And the only thing to take a look at is key spaces, but it is quite easy to use. You can find this on AliExpress. Let's see if it loads.
¿A tu ordenador? Vale. Aquí. No sé si he escrito bien.
I don't know if I typed it correctly.
Hecho. Voy a ver si tengo... Tengo otro por aquí.
Let's see if I find the other one I brought. So close this window.
No estoy escribiendo, ¿no? Vale. Un segundo, lo desconecto el bicho. Y escribo. Estos son.
So here they are. What I recommend is AliExpress. If you just want to play with them, I think there are Black Friday offers, because I found it on Amazon, but it cost 30 euros, and you can find it for 13 euros in AliExpress. Quite a difference. My recommendation is that the version that you saw before is not very updated, but it is quite stable. If you just want to play with it, take the stable version 2.3. AliExpress, as always, offers in the description the different code repositories that can be deployed within the device, and everyone has its own features. The one I recommend to, is this one here. This is the one that the application itself has, and it's the easiest to use, with Wi-Fi injector. And here you have the application that I showed you earlier. If you connect this to a computer from your phone, you can access the access point, and from the application you can play with the other user's laptop. the thing about loading the code, for example, this one specifically, the wiki comes from Windows and Mac in order to configure it. Then, what is the other option? The alternative is Digispacks, which cost €1. For those who don't know what this is, I'm going to show you these things over here. The good thing about this is that you can enter instructions on its memory, and those instructions are going to be executed. It doesn't have a huge memory because the rubber one had a small memory card. However, you can do basic things. Look at it. It's quite small. This one is the size of the width, more or less, and this is the digispar. This one creates an access point and executes the instructions you type in. This, once connected, is going to execute immediately the instructions it has in its own memory. So what do people do? So they have bought a chip, they have bought it, and they stick them together. This one comes already set up. It is true that, for example, there is a video on a boy called Pedro who explains step by step to assemble this digispar. This one here. I don't know if you can see it.
Al final, la verdad es que son bastante cómodos.
And these are quite easy to use. The problem is that the router and the keylogger catches your attention. If you connect it to an user's laptop, you can use social engineering, like, I need a file that it's here. And then when he is not looking, you can load the instructions and execute your orders, your commands. Another problem that I found is that it is quite slow. If you try to send instructions, it can block and can't do anything. Sometimes it takes 13 seconds and you need for it to type it in the computer. So even if you say to the user, this is a normal USB stick, if you're lucky, it's fast, and then nobody realizes it. But if it's slow, it can take 1 minute, 1 minute 20, and then you are in trouble. I tried to do it once, but distraction is not my best weapon. This is Digispart without Wi-Fi, in which you can implement a Wi-Fi module, as this boy did with this Dialth. And then you have this module. You see, you can stick them together to the Digispar board in order to simulate what is in here, and you can deploy the code in the same way. This Dialth has a code which already existed, but they built this circuit. And this one has its own free code.
Vale. Vale. Y esto era uno de los...
So this is one of the add-ons, which is quite cool. When starting working in an organization, there are companies that do not have filters, so you can create an FATP. And with the white device that I've shown you before, the most convenient thing to do is to write Python -n HTTP server, and you can navigate with throughout all the directories. You can also connect it. You can export the SSH key, and you have already access. And this is the way of doing a fast audit. And also regarding the information.
Es el tema de poder filtrar información.
So, well, about information, I'm going to talk about leaking information. So if there is a package who is blocked and that has HTTP service there, they don't have internet service access, you can filter or leak information through Wi-Fi. So the most convenient thing is to have a Wi-Fi channel. So every time you're sending a package, you know that you are saying the destination IP, the origin IP, the MAC address, and a set of data that can be modified. Since from Nmap, one of the options to avoid firewalls is to modify the headlines and to put random IPs. In this case, what's more simple here is to take the last value of an IP value that represents a string value. So you say every package with that MAC address, this is the IP, and I'm going to read the last value, and that value is going to be represented by a character. I do a simple script with that value, and this is going to create a text. And another option that we have is to create a Wi-Fi covered channel. And what's good about this one is that you're not going to lose packages, because it is going to recover all the packages that you may have lost. So, because sometimes when you are monitoring the traffic, you may lose these packages, but the one that you can see here on the screen that was created by Yago avoids losing this information. You create here one single point of access, and with your own network card, you can connect and you can send random packages through the network, and that's it. You can do it through since an Nmap or through Scapy. You can edit your packages and do a script with those tools. Also, something else would be using a drone, which is more high-tech. What do I mean with that? Many drones work with Wi-Fi, function with Wi-Fi. These drones have an IP, and you can even see how the Android app works in order to try to manipulate it or create your own version. If you want to play with that, I bought recently an AR drone from Parrot. I'm going to use the other computer.
Ah, vale, estoy aquí. Vale. No me he dado cuenta. Hecho. Este sería...
So, well, this is quite useful because the IP is free. You can play with that. It has an Android application, and you can manipulate the drone. In this case, well, it's 89 euros in MediaMarkt, but I bought it in Wallapop, so I got it cheaper, and I was playing with it. And this can create a point of access, the AR drone. You connect to that point of access, and you can send all the information. In this specific model, besides the API from Parrot, you also have different libraries, even in Python, that are ready, so that just with one command, you can give orders and tell the drone, okay, move backwards, upwards, etc. But well, this is just for fun. An audit is not going to use a drone ever. Another option is, for example, if you are connected to a network, that the ICMP packages can be modified. You can get that modification, and by intercepting the traffic from another device, you can see what you've been doing. And these are the type of encryptions that there are. So this is the most simple one, and almost nobody uses this. There are some public places that have this type of encryption, but almost nobody is connected. If there is just one client, you can force traffic in order to achieve the password. So years ago, a long time ago, this was widely used, and people have their own applications that allow them to access different routers. For example, I don't know, but 6 years ago, I think, I was kind of paranoid. So I was trying to find out what's going on in my network. And at one point, I was analyzing my network. It was working very slowly. I watched that it was a device connected, and I realized that a neighbor of mine could access my own network, and there was no encryption with HTTPS back then. So in the end, I could see everything that was going on. WPA, WPA2 is are the most used encryptions right now. And well, with that, you're going to need as many packages as possible, and the higher number of clients, the best. So the idea is to connect different packages and to try to break that network in order to obtain the password. So I'm going to turn on my own router here.
Ahí está. Y bueno, también estaba, creo que se ve ahí, por WPS, que era por PIN.
And also there is the WPS through PIN, through PIN. This is quite cool because this router is quite cool because you can modify it and write any type of encryption, even WEP.
Voy a ver. Se pone. Uy, este no. Se ha conectado. Vale. En este caso ya tenía la clave. Así que ninguno puede acceder.
Okay, it's connected.
Enfócame un segundo a la otra máquina. Vale. Vale. Creo que no se ve por aquí un segundo. Vosotros ahora mismo estáis viendo la otra máquina porque me acabo de meter en la parte de configuración del router.
Well, now you're not watching my computer because I don't want to show you the configuration of my own router. I've changed to web encryption.
Vale. ¿Lo ves por ahí? Ponerlo por aquí. Creo que tengo. Vale. Y ya ha cambiado, veis arriba que está el Cisco.
So here you can see the encryption.
Vale, en este caso.
So I'm going to try to do this from Cali. I'm going to move the terminal over here.
Ahí tengo las contraseñas en texto plan. Nada, es broma. En este caso, para host he usado el WAN 2.
So, well, I've chosen as host dual 2, so I'm going to take here dual 1.
Vale. La acabo de poner en modo monitor.
So this is my monitor mode. So my idea here would be to capture the packages from the router I've just created.
Entonces ahora mismo estoy viendo qué es lo que está pasando, que sería justo.
So what's going on? This is almost the same as the headline of the host. In host, you can see what's happening regarding packages and that stuff. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Okay, here it is. So this is the one that's interesting to us, Cisco. I think this is the one that we're going to use. So, okay, I'm going to keep this one. Channel is number 1. Can you see the terminal?
Vale. La idea es que aquí apareciesen
So the idea is to see the packages that are exiting the router and the clients. There are no clients here right now, but I'm going to try to generate some traffic with the Raspberry. And you will see this now on the screen. Okay, I'm connecting. I'm going to use the keyboard. Now I'm going to try to connect to the router. Okay, let's see if I can see the network. Okay, I'm going to try again. It didn't connect. Okay, it's not working, but well, the idea is to generate some traffic in order to try to put more packages on the web network. With all of these packages, I mean, if we don't have enough packages, we can try to force a false authentication. But the main idea, once we have the aircraft suite and enough packages, about 50,000 beacons, we would obtain the key. Yeah, we would need to reach to 50,000 beacons, but we're having just about 1,000, and it's taking a while. Let's see if I can connect one more time. The key is quite simple, actually. But let's see if I can connect the Raspberry. Okay, somebody could access. I don't know who is it. Please try to generate traffic. So the key is very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In order to try to accelerate this, do you have a shell there open? Did you do it from your mobile phone? Okay, with an application. Well, if we want the traffic to increase faster, let's see if I can show you.
En este caso era Cisco. Y bueno, y luego intentamos meter las credenciales tanto del cliente como del usuario.
Well, later we will try to introduce the credentials of the client and the user. And we would force the router to move more packages in order to reach 50,000 beacons. With that figure, we would get the password, the key. So the other option, WPA2, I'm going to change the properties of the router. Let's see if I can connect. So if you change the configuration in some devices, I mean, there are two types of attacks. One in order to force RPA packages, ARP packages. Well, and the other type of attack is generating traffic too, and because when there are more packages, we can try to force in order to get the password. Okay, I'm going to use this computer now. Okay, let's leave this here and let's do something else while the ones that could connect try to generate more traffic. Let's see if we can reach 50,000 beacons.
Hecho. Segundo, voy a conectar al Active Portal. Vale. Aquí veis un poco el código.
Okay, this is for you to see the code.
Ahora os lo muestro en la pantalla grande.
I'm going to show it to you now in the big screen.
Vale. Esto es la sonda, yo quiero este de aquí.
Okay, I want this one here.
Sí. En este caso, ponme un segundo el Mac.
Well, please let me
Vale.
see the Mac screen again. Okay.
Más o menos. Vale, lo que voy a hacer es compartiros
So,
luego este.
well, later I will share with you this
Lo que
code
hace para
here.
mis ondas,
So the idea is that
calcular todo el tráfico.
this is going to calculate the traffic. It's going to we're going to filter, taking into account the packages that are interesting to us.
Tengo algunos más para ir
Here I
probando.
have some of the packages we can use.
Está escrito en Node.
This is
Node
written in
y según
Node.
van saliendo
I
los
mean, the
paquetes,
final project is written in
voy
Node.
enviando directamente
And when we
a,
have the packages, I'm going to send them
desde el
through
cliente tengo
sockets.
el puerto abierto, entonces
So
estoy
I have the
constantemente
portal of the client open all the time, and this
el puerto del
allows me
cliente,
to
como
know
tengo que
what's going on.
me voy por aquí. Le voy estableciendo unas reglas.
And I'm going to
Por ejemplo,
establish
esto que
some
es un
rules.
request,
If this is
launch
a
a warning. Si
request,
detecto
I can launch a warning.
que
If
hay datos de parte
I
de
see that there are data
que hay un punto de acceso que está
or there is
enviando
a point of access that is
programas
sending
que se llama igual que uno que tengo en mi
strings
base de
that
datos,
are named as my database, I can launch
esto sería para la parte de
danger.
para enseñar código.
So this is regarding probes and the coding of
Para que
probes.
veáis hasta el punto.
And
Lo que más
in order for you to
suele
see
funcionar de
what
cara
usually works better
a la parte de Wi-Fi,
regarding Wi-Fi
RedTeam,
or
sería lo de
Red
crear otro punto de
Teams,
acceso.
we can create another point of
Un
access
panel o duplicarlo.
with a panel or
Yo en este caso
duplicating a
todavía
panel.
venía en la Renfe.
So I was on the train
Por aquí, amplos,
recently.
hecho. Voy a meter dentro.
Sorry, I'm going to type
Portal.
active portal.
Vale. No me lo ha tirado. Vale, no tengo internet aquí. Dame un segundo.
Okay, I don't have internet access here. Give me a second, please. I'm going to try to
El
connect.
otro día al final de Renfe, lo que
So,
están poniendo ahora, o lo que yo nunca había
in
fijado,
Renfe,
es de acceso.
they have
Este
a
punto de
point of
acceso te
access.
redirecciona siempre a
This
una
point
página
of
web que
access
tienen
redirects you to a website that they have created through which you need to fill a template or a request with several data. So this is the portal that I was explaining and that I was mentioning, the Renfe portal. They request many information here, many pieces of information, such as details such as name, surname, email address, ID number. This point of access was not even certified, so anything that you could send was okay. Anyone can replicate that website, can create a point of access with this website, and it would work. What I mean is that anyone can replicate that point of access, anyone can launch that point of access, and anyone can steal that data. So you have to be careful with that. So probably the router has changed password, so we would have to reset it. I'm going to stop using it. And well, as we don't have much time, I'm going to leave it here. This is a chaos. This is the Doom presentation, but well, I hope that at least you've learned things from the gadgets that I've shown you and that you may probably need. Regarding Wi-Fi, you can do many things regarding heat maps or triangulation, or regarding also sending off information. So I would recommend you to play with all these things. Finally, I would like to thank Incibe for letting me doing this presentation in spite of the technical problems that I've had. Also, I would like to thank Adriano, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine that gave me the material through which I was able to start my final university project. And so I would like to thank my S2 group colleagues because they were encouraging me to give this presentation. I could show the presentation to them in advance. So, well, in this case, I'm going to finish my presentation here because reconfiguring the router takes a long time and I don't have a lot of time. But of course, if you have any questions, please ask.
Una pregunta.
Okay, I have a question. Do you know Paunagotchi? The Tamagotchi of Aigedon, is it? Yeah, I don't know the name, but it would have been cool to see that too. Yeah, I have a colleague of mine that is working with that, but I've never done it. So I prefer to show things that I was familiar with. But yes, of course, I want to try that. It's quite cool. The only thing is that there are data published regarding who's using the Paunagotchi, etc. Okay, thank you. Good to know. So can you watch the code? Yes, you can. Okay, thank you. It's good to know that.
Y al final los que pruebo de Wi-Fi son los que os he enseñado antes.
The ones that I've tried are the ones that I've shown you. There are many more gadgets, but it depends on what you want to use, of course. Well, again, once again, you've seen my contact details up here, so please feel free to contact me. So, well, my idea is to publish the information that I've shown you about the pineapple, but if you want to start playing with the pineapple, please ask me questions. I can send you the information that I have. You have to compile with CCC, and you have to see the latest updates of the software of the pineapple and change that information so that you can work with that. So, well, this is it. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and that you've learned things. So thank you for coming. Please, a big round of applause for Daniel.